You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney Theme Parks podcast, and this is show number 335 for Sunday, the 18th of October, 2020.
Where dreams begin.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. And along with my jolly good chum Jane Phipps, we are joined by the wonderful, tiggerific Terri Hardin. So firstly, let's say hello to my good old sidekick Jane. Afternoon, Jane.
Good afternoon, Michelle. Are we all right this week?
We are fine, my lovely. We are fine. We are racing towards the end of October like a hurtling bullet train towards a wall.
I was going to say bat out of hell, but maybe that's not the right expression to use.
Well, it's an appropriate song. We all love a bit of meatloaf, but
yeah,
it's not really a Michelle and Jane show because we have our jolly good friend, former Disney Imagineer and woman of all trades, basically, at the moment. Anything creative, this is the woman we turn to. Hello, Terri Hardin.
Hello, Jane. Hello, Michelle. How are you both today?
Good. How are you, gorgeous?
Oh, my goodness. It's crazy, and I think bat out of hell fits very well. Just a lot going on. I've heard so many people say, because of the pandemic, I've been able to catch up on all the shows I had on my DVR and blah, blah, blah. And that is not me. I have not been able to catch up on any kind of shows. It's been a little challenging, but it's been really busy. It seems like I'm more busy than I was before the pandemic. And that's something that, you'd say, how is this possible? And I won't ask too much.
Well, that's because I know that you've set up your own Patreon account like we have, and you are doing so much on a weekly basis to the people who support you via that, but also other people on your Facebook group as well. You're doing, is it StreamYard or YardStream or something that you're using?
Yeah, StreamYard is the program that I use. The tribe, the people that have started to come in, I got a base level, created a base level, and I created a mission statement, and it's just exploding. It's just, in my opinion, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that have thousands and thousands of membership, of patrons in their Patreon page. But I'm up to 62, and I'm very, very happy for each and every one of those 62 people. And I'm working very hard to make sure they're happy. And the nice thing is that they help each other. So it's a nice quiet haven for people to come together and talk about privately and safely their feelings, and then get everybody, supports them and inspires them. And it's just been wonderful. So thank you so much for making me do something I might have waited to do.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, we're here today to talk a little bit about that season that's coming up in a few days' time, Halloween. And the first thing I think of with Halloween, I don't know about you, Jane, is pumpkins and pumpkin spice latte. But pumpkins.
I was just going to say, you can't say the word pumpkin, Michelle, without putting the nose extra two on the end of it.
True. So let's take a coffee out of the situation, because I'm not getting any at the moment because I can't leave the house. And let's just focus on pumpkins. And when I think of pumpkins, I think of people's creativity on how they make their lanterns. And then when I think more about it, I think of one person who has got a God-given talent for doing this. And this is you, Terri. I'm not saying about Jane. Jane's carving's good, but no offence, Jane. I've seen it.
Yes, I think you're being extremely kind there, Michelle.
I am. I'm in a kind mood at the moment. But I have seen Terri's carvings, and it is like somebody literally has painted the most immaculate artwork on a pumpkin, or carved it out and added lights into it. And oh my God, it's so astounding. So Terri, how did you get into this craft?
Well, it's so funny. I was carving. I don't even know. I was, I'm one of these will sculpt for food kind of people. And it's a passion of mine. I tend to, if I see something, I want to do it, and I just jump in. So years ago, it's probably been about 20, 30 years now, I read a newspaper article featuring a man on the cover, and the guy on the cover had had carved pumpkins. He was actually taking the outside hot orange rind off, and he was carving the flesh. And I said, well, I never thought to do that. That sounds kind of fun. And I read on, and he talked about these push wood carving tools that he used. And he had done some pretty interesting pieces. And so here it is. I'm reading this article on October 31st or November 1st. And he said, if you can, see if you can't go to your local market or whatever and pick up they might give you some pumpkins for free because Halloween's over. So I said, okay. I thought to myself, I'm going to run and do that. I'm going to buy the $5 push carving set. Came home, used that carving set for about two minutes and cut myself to ribbons. And I said, this sucks. This has got to be the stupidest idea anyone has ever said to me. So I pulled out my clay sculpting tools, which are loop tools, and I attacked the pumpkin that way and found that it was a very, very workable. This is better. This is so much better. So I carved my first pumpkin and then realized that a market pumpkin is not the pumpkin you want to get. Their walls are very thin. They're great for a jack-o'-lantern, but they only have about a 3/4 inch wall if you're lucky. And so to carve dimensionally in them is almost impossible. You can do it, but it's not going to be as nice as if you take the time to go down to a farm and talk to them about what types of pumpkins they have. Going fast forward, I realized that the market pumpkins also have a celery-like quality, and if you catch one of those strings, it rips your pumpkin in half. And if you're a beginner, it hurts your feelings very badly. You think it's you, and it's really the pumpkin. I kept working on this, and then one day I went to see Rolly Crump. You guys may remember him as a Disney legend, and while I was there, I saw a pumpkin patch called Bodacious Pumpkins. And I talked with the farmers, and they said, you might want to do a princess pumpkin. You might want to do a Big Mac pumpkin, or you might want to do some wolf pumpkins. And they were saying that the flesh is deeper, 2-inch deep flesh. It's whatever. So I picked up a rather smallish, it was about 50 pounds. So a 50-pound princess pumpkin, it probably was about 14 inches across. I took it home, opened it up. It had 3 inches of flesh, and I was able to sculpt this dimensional face out of it that when you saw it from the side, it had all this depth and dimension. And if people have heard of Ray Villafane, who was the co-judge on this show we're doing in the U.S. called Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network, he is a maestro at this. I had not heard of him for years and years and years. And then one year I watched an old show and I watched him carve these pumpkins and he won $10,000. Wow. And I was a little upset with the show because I said, this guy's a sculptor. And the other two were like, one lady was a baker and the other guy was like, he made cabinets or something. So their sculpting of pumpkins was a seasonal thing. And Ray was a sculptor of toys like me. He was doing toys for his respective companies like Marvel, Mattel, and things like that. So we were already sculptors. We were just using a different medium. And I didn't think it was very fair to put those other two people in there with him on that first show. I've been doing it for years. The Disney people, much like yourselves, got very excited when they started to see my dimensional pumpkins. And you can Google Terri Hardin, and I'm sure some of them will pop up, or you can go to the Food Network. They have a little bit there, or you can go to my website, which is terrihardin.com/events, and you can see some of the pumpkin work that I've done if you're curious. But the point is that Disney people said, we want to do this. And so I said, okay. So I taught a class, and that got me rolling and teaching classes, and I've been teaching classes ever since. Until last year, when surprisingly my pumpkin patch that I was teaching from closed up and they retired. Not because of COVID. He just had had enough. He wanted to retire, so he closed his patch. So I was supposed to find a new one this year. We thought we were going to find one, and then COVID hit. So that's how the virtual classes became, because we can't be in person and teach each other. We have to stay quite a ways. And so I said, nah, I don't think that's going to be a good idea. So I will simply do the virtual class.
So you got yourself involved with carving all of these pumpkins. They look amazing. They look fantastic. And then last year, you were a judge on a TV show about them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is funny, and this is what I tell people all the time, and I'll tell your listeners the same thing. You have a dream. Inside your heart, you know you do. You want to do something. Maybe in your head or your heart, you're not so sure you can. Maybe you want to be an Imagineer. Maybe you want to make a living doing what you love. Whatever it is, you're sitting there saying, how can I do it? How can I do it? Well, get on social media, get on it consistently, do it regularly, and just keep posting. I was told this is what I should do. And so years ago, in 2000, I think, I created a website that was nothing but my pumpkins. It's now a dead website. I don't even think you can find it now. But at the time, it had some of my art on it, and it had some of my classes on it, and it had a way to sign up for my live classes. But what happened is, as people do, especially now during the pandemic, is they surf the internet looking for people. So if they're searching the internet looking for people, they're looking for you if you state your dream. So they came across my pumpkin website, and they called me and asked me to be a contestant on the second Food Network pumpkin competition, which actually happened in 2005. I said, no. I don't want to be a judge. I don't want to be a contestant. I want to be a judge. And they were like, you could win $10,000. I said, no, I want to be a judge. Here's why. I would imagine Ray Villafane is going to defend his title. And I would love to tell you that you need to get people that are carvers and sculptors to compete with him. Otherwise, it's not fair. You know, if you're going to get, 2 or 3 people who are just sculpting pumpkins or do it as a hobby compared to someone who's a pro, it's just not fair. He's going to win $10,000. If you don't care, go for it. But if you do care for it, and I can't imagine Ray Villafane is someone who's really going to want to walk in and take the $10,000, barely, break a sweat and win this money. So I think I should be a judge because, and then I can, help you and everything. So they had me do a quick 2-minute presentation to show how good or not so good I was on camera. They loved it. And they said, okay, we're going to bring you in as a judge. This sounds great. So I worked with a guy the judges were myself. And then there was a guy who did Halloween effects. He did haunted houses. And the third judge was a guy who does food, all kinds of food carving, beautiful work. He's out of Hawaii. He's really talented. And so the 3 of us were judges and Ray Villafane was the contestant. And then there were 2 other contestants. What I'm trying to say here is they found me by coming across my website. And then they're going to contact you. And so you can't just post your artwork. You have to say, my dream is, or you just say, don't you think I should be this? And so if you've listened to any of my Facebook Lives, I'm always saying, it's time for my own show, isn't it? Don't you think I should have my own show? I think I should have my own show. It's time I had my own show. This way, when people listen, there might be someone out there that says, hey, I think she should have her own show. And before you know it, they're contacting you. So this is what happened with Outrageous Pumpkins. They contacted me. I told them I wanted to be a judge. And then the year before last, the one that you're seeing in the UK was the first one since '05. I did that one last year. In 2019, we shot that one. Or in 2018, we shot the one that aired in 2019. And in 2019, we shot the one that's airing now in the US.
Wow. I think you need your own show purely because, knowing you'd make it accessible for everybody across the world.
I have my criteria, Michelle. I don't want to be one of those people that makes people feel bad. I want to be on a show that makes them feel good. We've got this show here that I absolutely love. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a series called Parks and Recreation, and it had 2 leads in it that were absolutely hilarious and just darling people. And what they do is they're a part of a show. They host a show where people create, and the best creation wins,
Yes, I've seen
money.
that, Terry. It's
I
a
love it.
fantastic show. Yeah.
And then your show, the baking show, the one that comes from the UK, that baking show, is amazing. It's not, here we're not, I don't think we're as good with that, we have some good baking shows, but that baking show is so great because it has a lot of heart. It has a lot of, and that's what I want. I want it to be a competition where you're getting to know these people and you see what their heart is about, not about making them feel bad or make them feel uncomfortable. You got to do good critiques, of course, but it's not a show like American Idol where you've got one guy who's just ruthless, or sometimes America's Got Talent, where we all know the story of how Ms. Boyd was treated when she walked up on the stage, and thank goodness she opened her mouth and everybody shut up. But that's what I'm talking about. When people walk on the stage and they're getting judged and they haven't even opened their mouth yet, they go, "Oh, this ought to be good because of the way you look." That's just not fair. And I want to be in a show where that exactly proves that you got to stop doing that. Let this person show you what they got. And then if it's silly and crazy, do a nice critique, but say, hey, So that's the kind of show I want to do. One that inspires and helps people to move forward and try stuff, as opposed to something that's just cutting people down. Just not interested in that kind of a show, especially now.
Just thinking slightly off the wall here, and I know you've already said you don't watch a lot of TV. There is a show on at the moment, and it's called Skin Wars, and it's about body paint artists. Oh my word, it is amazing. And they get different challenges each week, whether it's concealment, whether it's camouflage, whether it's to body paint the inner essence of a sumo wrestler. They get all these different challenges. It's amazing. You have to look at it, Terri. I'm not kidding.
I'll have to. It sounds amazing.
And you get to find out a little bit about the personalities, and it's a really cracking show. We were talking about it on our Sunday live thing that we do on Zoom, where we have our family members come on and we do a bit of a chit chat and a quiz and things. And that was when I had to share, because it is just so up your street.
It sounds fantastic, because here's the thing you want to think about right there is, how'd y'all get started doing this? Do you know what I mean? You're like, do you approach someone and say, "Hi there, I want to paint your body"? Do you know what I mean? So that to me is a show. It's just it sounds like a great show, because once you have a show like this, approaching people to have their body painted is okay. But you imagine when they got started and they started practicing and stuff, how do you approach someone and say, "I'd like to paint your body"? And that not sound weird.
Oh, don't worry. The show producers get the models for them. I do find it really bizarre at the end of the show. They always say, "Now go wash your canvases," and you have like a shot of the shower with a frosting across the middle, so you don't see anything that you shouldn't. And the model is in the shower washing off all this body paint. I just think that's a bit weird.
To me, it's just adorable. So I think that's what's great about the show is, as you're watching it, you're thinking, how do these people start out? Pretty much like the question you've asked me about pumpkin sculpting. You wake up one morning, you've been painting, and all of a sudden you say, "Hey, I think I should do body art." Now, maybe you're a tattoo artist and the tattooing was just a little too permanent for you. You may not like the process of tattooing, because they do have a show called Inked where they show you all this beautiful tattoo art they do. But you might be someone who said, I like tattooing, but I like the more volatile. It's not permanent. I can paint this beautiful art on a model and do it. And once you start to get known, then you're fine. But I always ask people, how did you actually start?
Okay, well, let's move away from pumpkin and let's go down a different avenue. Still on the theme of Halloween. Is it something that you celebrate tremendously? Because I know Jane decorates her house, and in the UK we are starting to get a little bit more into the old Halloween. But what's a typical American do?
There's three types of typical Americans. You've got your Disney person who seems to have a serious decorating ability. And so everything that they do is 110%. That's not me. I always worry about, you're starting to see what my brain is doing, and you're like, okay, this person has a thread here. But I don't want to store that stuff. We wanted to do a supercalifragilistic Halloween, but we don't want to store this stuff. So I used to just put 10, 12 pumpkins out, all carved, and then all sculpted. And then people would come from all over to see the sculpted pumpkins because they're very beautiful lit. And so at night, they look like these beautiful lanterns that look like faces, Dracula. And I did the Desperate Housewives apple for Desperate Housewives when they were up and running. Ellen show, I did her portrait and things like that. And so people would come from all over. Word would get out that I would do these 15 pumpkins. And that was kind of, string a few pumpkin lights across that were lit, and then do these strange pumpkins all in my yard, and then hand out candy to kids. That was about my speed. But then my husband said, I really want to do something that's spectacular, because on our block, everybody is decorating. They have those inflatable ghosts that jump up and down, and they have a giant dragon, and they have all kinds of stuff happening. And it seems like this year everybody wants to do some sort of decorating because of the pandemic. We don't know if we're going to have anybody. In fact, the CDC has told us not to do door-to-door trick-or-treating. So there's all kinds of things like a tube that can shoot out to the street with the candy in it so that the kids can grab it there. All these creative things that people are trying to do to allow kids, if they're willing, to come and see it. But we don't know how, how do you buy candy for it? How do you buy, we give out popcorn. So we give out envelopes of popcorn sealed in the paper, just microwave popcorn, because we figure that kids need salt with their sweet. And they come from all over to get the popcorn. They know we're the house that gives popcorn. So they come and get popcorn every year. Last year we had 300 kids. This year I don't know how many we're going to have. So to answer your question, we have a picture window in the front of our home, and we project Nightmare Before Christmas onto it.
Nice.
And we play this movie, and we pipe the music out, and then we decorate with my pumpkins and lights and stuff. That's about the speed of it. It's very easy to store because it's a projector I use when going on tour speaking, and it's a speaker system that I use when I'm speaking to crowds. So we just repurpose that for Halloween, and it makes it very easy to store. And then pumpkins rot. So the nice thing about pumpkins is that they'll take care of your garden as they rot. They're also a lot of fun when you carve faces into them in this fashion, because they have a fungus that as they rot, it's a black fungus. So your faces can have beards and eyebrows, or the teeth can start to look rotten. So they look really cool, but you want to make sure they're in your garden, not in your home, because when they go to juice, as I call it, they just go to water and they can destroy anything underneath them. So I always say, put them in your garden. They'll feed your garden with all of that, and then pick out the junky parts and throw them away in the compost pile. But this is what we do. So and then we usually dress up, but sometimes we don't. And we used to have a door without a screen on it because of my bulldog. And so we would reach through the door. People see a screen door, they automatically assume there's a screen there. So when your hand came out through the screen to hand them popcorn, it startled so many people. They just thought it was such a great effect. There just was no screen on the screen door. That's all it was. So that's how we celebrate. I do weird pumpkins. So I have a pumpkin that I did that's just a pumpkin, and then I sculpted a hand that's growing out of it and pointing towards my door. So you knew to come up, go inside the fence, and walk up to the door to get your popcorn. So I had to do, we were going to do a sign with an arrow on it, and I said, no, I'll just sculpt the pumpkin. And everybody stops and says, oh my God, look at that pumpkin. And then they realize it's telling them something. So that's what I do. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. I am a costume maker. Usually at this time, I'm designing costumes for people. Anything from something simple like a ballerina to the Queen of Hearts, Catwoman. I did Hella, all kinds of things like that, depending on whether it's for a child or whatever. And this year we didn't do that simply because of the COVID-19 restrictions. And so we don't know what Halloween's going to be. Well, I'm going to do the pumpkins, and then I'm going to teach the classes. But after that, we don't know. It's too bad, because Halloween would be something that would be nice. They're telling us to celebrate it with family, our bubble can be a little bit bigger. We're going to put the movie on in case our neighbors, because what had happens is our neighbors come out and they sit on their lawns and their porches and they watch the movie.
Aww.
So we'll do the movie so that the neighbors can watch the movie this year. But where it goes from there, we just don't know.
You're going to dress up, aren't you, Jane, your house normally? Because you normally even have a Halloween party, because that's how Jane and I first met. I don't know if you know this story, but Jane invited me to a Halloween party, and I'm going to hand over to Jane for a moment to describe this said party. I'd never met her at this stage.
I would like this.
Well, no, because we hadn't met. We'd only spoken over telecommunications methods, hadn't we? An email and one thing and another. And I suppose it's a little bit tricky because where I live, I'm off a main road and I'm up like a little lane, and I'm quite rural in the countryside. So I'm a little bit tricky to find if you don't know where I am. So the first time that Michelle and I met was after Simon, my husband, had greeted Michelle, dressed as the Joker, with very effective makeup, I have to say, down a very dark lane. And then when Michelle met me, I think I was Catwoman, was I not, Michelle?
You were Catwoman, Tom was Albert Einstein,
That's
and
right, yes.
I was dressed as Miss Cherry Bakewell, and I had a tray of Bakewell tarts, and I'd secreted in some of them surprises like peas or chilies or other things, so they got a trick or maybe a treat.
Yeah. So yes, we had a very good evening, if my memory serves me right, Michelle. It's quite a few years ago though now, isn't it, darling? But yeah, unfortunately, no Halloween party for me this year. I have got my 5 boxes of Halloween decorations out of the loft, and a lot of them will be going to my preschool for next week. So we're going to have a Halloween fun week. We have 2 pumpkins that my staff are going to attempt to carve. There won't be anything fancy going on. There may be a few holes cut in them to do the traditional jack-o'-lanterns. But then the best bit is we scoop out all the insides and we use that as messy play with the children. So that's quite good. And then we're going to get spaghetti and dye the spaghetti spooky colours. So there's going to be a lot of messy play next week with the children, and lots of creative bits and pieces going on, and lots of messy food. It's going to be a really fun week at preschool next week.
You sound like you're just as excited as the kids are going to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, I normally only work 3 days a week, but next week I've got to work 4, so I kind of not done that right, have I? But hey ho, the kids will be happy, and that's all that matters, is what I'm keep telling myself.
Well, the fact that you're getting in all the gunk with joy and excitement, that's what I find pretty entertaining. Is you're like, oh, goody, it's almost here.
Well, I think this year particularly, it's a case of if you've got a chance to do something that's going to bring a bit of a laugh and a bit of a smile to people's faces, then it's probably worth doing this time around. And normally if we're not having a Halloween party, I think like last year it just didn't fall right, so I didn't bother really decorating up. But I think this year, regardless of whether we're having a Halloween party or not, I will put a few bits and pieces out, not quite as extensive as our American friends, but I'll have a little nod. My only disappointment is we can't really get much Disney Halloween over here, so that's my biggest disappointment, really. So I've got a few bits and pieces, but nothing very much Disney orientated.
Oh,
Which is a shame.
So yeah, they kind of Disney out over here as far as all of that stuff, but really cute. And then I saw the pumpkin you knitted, right, Michelle? That was really cute.
Oh, thank you. That was my first attempt. I've got another one. I'm trying to do a little bit of an improvement to make the Mickey a little bit more rounded, because I felt his ears were a bit square, but I'll get that. I'll perfect it.
Now, is it knitted? Knitted, yeah?
It's knitted, yeah.
Yeah. It was adorable.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm enjoying the knitting.
Yeah, a lot of people. I have a woman who used to crochet like crazy. She said she hasn't been feeling up to it. I told her she can't force it, because the pandemic will take over you for a little while, and all you want to do is sit. And as long as you don't go down the rabbit hole, you just sort of rest. It's normal. It happens to everybody, and whatever normal is. But there are going to be times when you just don't feel like doing much of anything, and you have the house yelling at you, all of the things that need to be done, not to mention your work is yelling at you, not to mention da 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 da. You start to feel guilty about just taking time for yourself, whether that's sitting and staring at the ceiling or whatever that is. And she said, I've never stopped crocheting. And she said, all of a sudden I can't do it. And she had a friend who said, man, I'm crocheting like a crazy person. I haven't been. So you don't know how it's going to affect you. And I said, well, it'll come back, just kind of wait and start small, crochet a chain. If you can go on from there, great. If not, undo the chain and do it again until you feel like you can move forward. But I liked yours because it's knitted, and a lot of people avoid knitting because they say it's so hard, and it's not. It's just something that you have to work at.
Yeah. I only started again during lockdown purely for something to do, and I've not knitted for about 6-7 years. And the last thing I started knitting was my christening blanket about 20 years ago for my son, and I never finished it. And I found it when I started knitting again, and I literally have finished it now. But obviously my son's 20, and it's not much use to him now. But you never know. One day I might be a grandma, and I might be able to utilise it.
Yeah, you could say to him, "Here's a nice shawl, son." Maybe for your feet. The intentions were there. But no, I know exactly what you're saying. How nice. And that's what actually spurred you to get back into knitting. And this is one of the reasons I'd like to move somewhere where I have seasons. I love California, but we're hot with hot and sometimes hot. And so knitting doesn't really get you excited unless I like it when it's rainy and cold, where I'm in a big sweater and I've got the knitting over my lap and it's warming me as well as I'm completing it. I love that. But we don't necessarily have days like that here. So yay for you, Michelle, for doing the pumpkin, because it brought us all such joy to see that cute little orange knitted pumpkin.
Well, you never know. It might be that one might be coming off the production line and winging its way over with the rum and raisin chocolate for Lindsay and some curly whirlies for you.
Oh, let's talk about the rum and raisin post you did. Oh my goodness. For those of you listening wanting this to be all about Disney, I apologize, but some things have got to get said. And oh my goodness, you posted that picture. I took it into my husband and he looked up completely speechless. Oh. So deeply touched, Michelle, that you had gone to such trouble to find that when he finally said something, he said, it's really good chocolate.
Well, you see, I'll let you in on a secret. It's mine and Jane's favourite, but the company stopped making it for a while, and it's a heritage brand by Old Jamaica, is this brand, going on for ages and ages, and I've looked everywhere for me and Jane, literally for about 18 months. We've not found any. And then I saw it in this shop, hiding on a shelf. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm buying 10 bars. And I've got 10 bars on the floor. I've got some for my husband, some for Jane, some for me. And there's some down there for Lindsay, because your amazing husband took us out for a wonderful day at Universal. He looked after us. So I look after people who look after me. And I like doing nice things for people too.
You do. And he was just so excited. And actually you should write to that company. You should tag them on that post. You should send them that post and tell them your story, because they should actually be sponsoring your podcast. They really should, because you've got you and Jane loving them. My husband absolutely adores them. The year you sent us that one bar in that box, and his eyes rolled up in his head, and you both know how amazingly delicious this chocolate is. He was so touched. And the funny thing, Michelle came out and my husband took her on a special personal VIP guided tour of Universal Studios. He works at Universal, and he drove her around. And one of the things he said is that she didn't ask me a lot of questions, and she took a lot of pictures. And I said, you realize she's a podcaster, right? He was like, oh, I said, you realize she was doing content. This is the only time she might get to do this. So she probably had a plan, and it was to get as many of these behind the scenes things as she could possibly get so that she could share them with her viewers. And my husband said, "Oh, okay." So he was very, very touched when you posted that and showed those chocolate bars. He just was very, very touched. He's funny because he thinks when he takes people on these VIP tours, they're going to be full of questions. They're going to ask him all kinds of things, but they're usually so dazzled by the fact that we are walking around when everybody else is stuck on a tram that they don't have the words. They don't have they can't even speak. You know, we don't do this for everybody. We do this for extra special people like Michelle, and they don't speak. They so the best that many can do is they take pictures so that maybe we can have a lunch after and then we can speak. You know,
but at one point, Terry, he had us walking by these sound stages, and he said, "Do you know where you stood now?" And I said, "Yeah, where they parked the cars." He said, "No, this is the lagoon from The Creature from the Black Lagoon. This was literally a lagoon." And I was like, "Oh my God!" The information he had was sensational. And to this day, I've still not done a podcast about it because I still haven't had time to decompress everything from that day, because it was so amazing, you know, to walk inside the building from Back to the Future. Then there was the Psycho House, then there was the Jaws. Oh my word.
Yeah, and the Psycho House was the thing that's so great about the Psycho House is even myself, I've wanted to stand with a picture of me on the steps like Norman did, and just stand on the steps that Norman Bates stood on with the house in the background. So even I was dazzled when my husband said, "I know what you want to do." He took me up to the Psycho House. He framed the picture and he took this picture of me in front of the Psycho House because I love Psycho, and I was just jazzed. So for your listeners, what it is that my husband works for Universal Studios as in producing and creating and editing the promos that you see for various shows on the network. So he has the ability, and it's funny because he was transferred there. They actually moved all of their facilities up to the Universal lot when they rebuilt up there. And my husband said, "Wow, I'm no longer going to get to fall out of bed into my office," which was 3 minutes away. Now it's 6 minutes away. Oh dear, 10 minutes away. And I said, you're missing the point here. With that badge, you can walk the lot. And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You can walk the lot. And when you get a badge, you get to walk around and look at everything backstage. So when he first started there, I said, "Go over to stage," can't remember what it was. I think it was 36 or something. Those of you who are movie aficionados and stuff, forgive me because I'm just having a small vapor lock. But it was the old Phantom of the Opera stage from the silent era. Universal is the oldest studio in Hollywood. And they celebrated their 100th quite few years ago. And they still had the Phantom of the Opera stage from the silent. So my husband used to go and eat his lunch sitting in the opera box. And I remember the first time he got to do that, he came home almost in tears. And he said, I sat there. In fact, when I walked in, there was a guy sort of watching over it, and he turned the lights on for me. And I sat and ate my lunch there. And he said, "Oh my gosh, it was like going to heaven." And he shot all these pictures of places that are now gone, including that lagoon, Michelle, because the lagoon was there when he was there. He took pictures of it. He took pictures of the Court of Miracles and all these places that are no longer there, and walks people through what is there, but that history is something. So for him, it was a dream come true. So when he found out he could share it with people, and only a few, he can only take 1 or 2 people, as you saw, that you get that opportunity, and it's just amazing. So I told him he needs to understand that people get speechless and breathless when they walk back there, because we see the trams, didn't we, Michelle?
Oh, yeah.
All the trams driving around, stopping, the guy talking, nobody gets to walk out, you know?
I felt like a movie star for the day, because people were literally taking pictures of us wandering around because they thought we were famous. It was so funny.
Yeah, it was a great experience. And so that's, you know, it's so nice to just when you have these abilities to do this, if it's someone special, and you had come to see us all the way from the UK, we hadn't seen each other in a while, and my husband said, if she wants me to do this, I'd be happy to do it. And yeah, it was great. I always love to watch Jaws from the perspective that you and I got to watch it from, which is the resetting of the shark. I love that. I could watch it forever.
Yeah. Tears were coming from my eyes as you unclenched my fingertips from the edge of the balustrade and made me get back in the car. I wanted to stay there all day, which I could have done, but then we went and had donuts, so that kind of made me feel all good again.
Oh my goodness, yes. And you were so cute because you loved, you had to go. You turned to Lindsay with big round eyes and said, I want to go to Universal and see Voodoo Donuts. And I'm a Voodoo Donut fan, you kept saying. And my husband is like, what? And we went, and you posed in front of the big Voodoo Donut, which one of the people that works with me in my company built. So I said to her, I took pictures of her standing in front of the donut and sent it to my colleague. I said, guess who's so excited to stand in front of your Voodoo Donut? And he was really excited. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
It was.
Yeah. It's
many
good to
happy
do
memories.
for each other. Yeah.
So, my
Yes.
lovely, let's just put a little bit of a bow on this discussion and go back full circle to where we started from. Because at the moment, one of the things you're offering people, if they want to learn how to do their pumpkin sculpting, you are doing some online courses. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to do your sales pitch. Off you go.
Okay, for those of you who never thought you could carve a pumpkin, for those of you who don't believe you're artists, for those of you who really are interested in maybe just seeing what I do and how I teach, for $20 on either the 29th, 30th, or 31st, we're going to be teaching, I have a mouse in my pocket, I'm going to be teaching you how to sculpt pumpkins. So if you're interested, go to my website, which is www.terrihardin.com. That's Hardin, 2 R's and an I in my first name. I will send it off to Michelle. She knows where it is. And she and Jane will let you know what it is. But go there. For $20, you can come and watch. You can come and sculpt. All the information is there on my website under events. And you can learn about it. And if you have any questions, you shoot me an email and I'll explain it to you. I also have a special on a tool set and a DVD so that if you want to get those, to be prepared, fine, but you'll also be able to see what kind of tools they are in case you have them already in your possession. Then all you have to do is find a pumpkin and off we go. So I hope you will come and do it on one of those days, and I hope to see you there.
Perfect. And I know in the past you were doing face-to-face ones of these, so I think in a way COVID has made you more accessible, because if you're living in a different country, all you have to do is tackle the time zone, and then you can watch you live and be taught by the master.
Exactly. And so for the UK, I've offered you, Michelle, or anyone in the UK, if they have a group of people and they'd like me that Halloween week to do it at a different time, I'm doing them at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on the 29th and the 30th. It starts, and that's Pacific time, or 9 a.m. Pacific time on Halloween Day. For us, if you want to be prepared for Halloween Day, just write to me. And if you have 2 or 3 people or 4 people or whatever, and you want to get together and carve, that's a time that's a little more friendly to the UK, just hit me up. Just let me know.
And that's a challenge for our Australian friends over at Dis Down Under. If you can fathom out what time that is on Australian time and get a group of friends together, you could have your own pumpkin fiesta with Terri. Wow.
Even if it means that I've got to get up at 2 a.m. because I have spoken with Australia a lot. They've said it's going to be 2 a.m. when you talk to us. You give me a little warning, I'm more than happy. We'll make it work, and I'll sleep in November.
You're the best. We'll just send you some coffee over with the chocolate and curly whirlies, and we've got you sorted.
Absolutely.
Well, you are the most gorgeous, wonderful person. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do for people who follow you on Facebook. So guys, we will put everything you need to find out about Terri on our website as well, DisneyDreamGirls.com. Please go check out what she's up to at the moment, because she gives so much back to people to help them find their creativity, whether it's spoken word, whether it's paint, whether it's sculpting, whether whatever. She will bring the best out in you. She does when I speak to her, because she's such a warm, lovely, fluffy person. So thank
do
you.
me a favor and go to my YouTube channel, which is YouTube. You can Google under Terri Hardin or just click Terri Hardin Speaks. And then sign up. Do me a favor and follow me and click that bell. Apparently that's important. And and look at some of my playlists.
Awesome. Okay, guys, you know where to find us. Twitter, Instagram, @DisDreamGirls. You can also find us on our Facebook page. Look for Disney Dream Girls Podcast Family, where you can share your Disney loving life. And I know at the moment there's not much theme park loving going on at the moment, but what little scraps our family get to enjoy, they will share it with you. And we can always talk about merchandise and recreating food items at home. Also, big thank you to our Patreons, who will be getting an exclusive, super long, unedited version of this chat with Terri. So pop on over, patreon.com/Disney Dream Girls, if you want to find out how to subscribe to us over there. But until next week, let me go around the team. Goodbye from me, Jane.
Goodbye from me.
And Terri.
See you later, guys.